These are the lands where my people lived before you whites first came.
I don't understand. We whites were not your first enemies. You came out of the Minnesota woodlands, armed to the teeth, and set upon your fellow man.
Maxine Waters is the ringleader, a complete thug, and a gangster. Somebody who also should probably catch a case. I would very much like to see the January 6th charges that were brought against peaceful protesters, brought against these Democrat members of Congress. You can't, I have the footage, you can't tell me that what they're doing here is any different than what anyone did on January 6th. At least 99.999% of people on January 6th. So they're spiraling. Democrats are at a loss for how to protect the institutional power that funds all of their campaigns, all their NGOs, all their family members, all of the dark money liberal groups. They're having a meltdown over this. Maxine Waters screaming at Elon Musk and threatening Elon Musk and doxing federal officials. Here we go.
Wow, wow, wow. Look at this crowd. Elon Musk, where are you? Bring your ass over here so you can see who's here and what we're doing. We're not afraid of you. We know that you are the co-president now of the United States of America. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to follow very closely what he's doing and how he has done it. First of all, we're here at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. What is it? This is so important. Prior to this being organized in the Dodd-Frank reforms, consumers didn't have any place to really file complaints.
Oh man, that's rich for Maxine Waters. Talking about banking regulations? Really, lady? This is the same lady that faced sanctions in Congress and was listed as the #1 most corrupt member of Congress because she put her husband on a board of a bank that she was regulating during the financial crisis of 2008. Do you not understand how corrupt Maxine Waters is? She's going to sit there outside of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, much like FEMA. By the way, President Trump, my producer is telling me, President Trump just responded to our FEMA reporting. Please grab that. I'm going to put that up. President Trump just responded to our reporting seconds ago on Truth Social saying that he's probably going to get rid of FEMA entirely. That is too corrupt of an organization. Elon Musk saying the same thing about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, who, again, if you have a bureau called Protect the Children in Washington, D.C., and it's funded by USAID and dark money, octopus blob NGOs, you know that what that organization does is probably traffic children. It's just whatever it is the opposite of the name, okay? FEMA is not for the helping out of Americans. It's for the moving in of criminal aliens to make your country less safe and to fund these criminal aliens so that they can destroy Western civilization and your nation. It's the opposite. It's just the opposite. It's so unbelievably Orwellian. Maxine Waters is there demanding the protection of Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Yeah, which is done the exact opposite. Maxine Waters was called on this egregious hypocrisy by one of our friends, Nick Sotor, who's a journalist. He's independent, and he has the brass balls to walk up to these Democrats and to ask them real questions. He got assaulted multiple times yesterday by the staff of Maxine Waters and Elizabeth Warren. We'll play you these clips right now. Imagine for like even a second if a Republican member of Congress had their goon squad out punching reporters. Here's what happened to Nick when he tried to ask questions of Maxine Waters.
I think I'm hypocritical.
She's got to go get in her big black taxpayer-funded SUV.
Oh yeah, that's what happens when you're a member of Congress.
No, that's what happens when you don't have transparency in the government. Why do you deserve a big black taxpayer-funded SUV? Is that why you're so against Doge? Is that what the problem is? What's up with the lack of transparency in your... What's the problem with transparency? Who the fuck are you? Why are you pushing? What is the problem with Doge? What is the problem with... Get the fuck off.
Do you remember Jim Acosta writing an entire book about Trump's attack on the free press? Had you ever seen a single instance where anybody laid a hand on Jim Acosta? Accosted Acosta? No. In fact, I have clips that can show you that Jim Acosta accosted White House staff members. We actually have the footage. This is weaponized autism, ladies and gentlemen. I know the producers are grabbing it right now. This is the footage is 7 years old, but Jim Acosta actually fighting and physically fighting with White House staffers, pushing and punching at them. It's the opposite of what they say. We live in a bizarro world. But there, I can just show you a clip of an independent journalist getting assaulted by the security of a top-ranking, very famous Democrat member of Congress. Why is this not national news? It's gone viral on X. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is Elizabeth Warren and her staff doing the exact same thing, except for this time it was Elizabeth Warren giving the elbow to the journalist. We have it on tape. Here we go.
To shut down.
So Senator Warren, why are you so afraid of transparency? Why are you bothered by the fact that Elon Musk is attempting to expose all of this fraudulent spending? What is that about? What is the problem here? What is the problem with transparency? Do not touch me. Do not touch me. Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth on a $200,000 salary in Congress?
Thank you.
How did you do that?
Excuse me.
How did you do that? You can keep trying to block my camera. We're on a public sidewalk, so get off of me. So you don't want to answer that question. What is it about Doge that's such a problem to you? You just elbowed me, Senator. I got that on camera.
Excuse us. Thank you.
Transparency is your enemy.
Nick Sotor, independent journalist, just got tomahawk chopped by Pocahontas. Here's another angle of it. You can see here the senator literally taking her sharp elbows and jamming it against the camera. So there's multiple times in the same day that this independent journalist was shoved or stopped from reporting the news, asking questions of elected officials. This is an assault on democracy. It's a constitutional crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us right now is the journalist who's brave enough to stand in the face of these Democrats and ask questions like, here's a good one. How did you become worth $22 million on a taxpayer-funded salary that's $147,000 a year? And that's before taxes. This is all that Nick was trying to ask Elizabeth Warren, and he got tomahawk chopped. And so, ladies and gentlemen, joining us now, I'm not sure from the hospital or the emergency room, but we'll see, is the great independent journalist Nick Sotor. Nick, what's up, brother? Well done. It still confounds me that this isn't the number one news story in the world right now. You were assaulted multiple times by Democrat staffers, and they just can get away with it.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing new here, Benny. I mean, they for whatever reason, they're not used to reporters asking them tough questions and actually, pressing them. They're called the press, but they don't do any they don't put any pressure on the Democrats ever. And we saw this a similar situation on Maui when the mayor's people were pushing up on me, and I got put in a headlock by one of his people just for asking about the numbers of people that were missing in debt out there. And in this situation, you see me asking Elizabeth Warren about her net worth. I feel like that's a very, very fair question, and it seems to be that one of the reasons that they're scared of this transparency is because it's going to reveal how she ended up with a $12 million minimum net worth on a $174,000 salary. I mean, look, man, I'm not a mathematician, but the math ain't mathing, Benny. I don't understand.
I've, again, seen Jim Acosta. Here's a video of Jim Acosta at the White House accosting a White House staffer. This guy built his entire career off of saying that there's an attack on the press. And in the time span of 2 hours, you had your camera shoved. I believe that's what happened with Maxine Waters. So, a member of her security punched over at your camera and blocked your shot. And then you had a very well-known Democrat senator who was running for president just a few years ago elbow you in the side. This seems to be grounds, I think, for a larger national conversation about the goons these people actually are.
Yeah, absolutely. And Benny, what you can't tell from the video is because when Maxine Waters staffer, well, first of all, I'll tell you real quick, it is not easy to ask questions and think very well and think through these things when you're being shoved and grabbed. And, I had actually Ayanna Presley's goon squad grab me by my jacket and pick me up. I haven't even posted that video yet, Benny. It gets worse. But asking her those questions, and they tried to literally take my phone. I had to fight to get my phone back from them. It's like, because I was recording like this, and they grabbed it and started pulling it out of my hands, literally trying to take my phone. This is after they attempted to steal my AirPods. They pulled my AirPod out of my ear, this one of the Elizabeth Warren people, and then ran away and hid it somewhere. I ended up being able to find it with the Find My iPhone app. She grabbed it, and threw it, and then chased me down and said that I assaulted her and was stealing her AirPods, even though she had literally stolen my AirPods. These people are crazy. They're mentally ill. They don't have any answer. And that includes these senators and Congress people at this point. Maxine Waters is easily one of the dumbest members of Congress, can't answer simple questions, doesn't want voter ID, but demands ID from a poor staffer from outside the Department of Education who's doing his job and not letting her raid the place. They're hypocrites. They're not particularly bright, and they can't answer questions. That's why they don't. They're incapable of doing so. It's as simple as that.
This is nothing compared to what Republicans have to deal with every single day on Capitol Hill. So Republicans, members of Congress, are constantly barraged by reporters who chase them into elevators, who harass them, who are funded by USAID in order to make their lives a living hell. And all you're doing is turning the tables and simply asking legitimate questions. This is a huge question. How did they all get so rich? Maxine Waters was named the most corrupt member of Congress. Elizabeth Warren is worth tens of millions of dollars. Nobody can figure out exactly why. So this seems completely and totally legitimate. Yet you're assaulted for this. There's new sheriff in town, Nick. Ed Martin is the new D.C. district attorney appointed by President Trump. Have you considered reaching out to potentially file charges for assault against these Democrat members and their staff?
No, I think somebody definitely has to. But the issue that we have here is that I would have to go, as far as I'm aware, to the D.C. district attorney, the district of, the city of Washington, D.C. would have to be the ones to bring assault charges against these people. And the chances, there's not a snowball's chance in hell that would ever happen. There's a clear double standard here in Washington, D.C. But, Ed Martin's a good guy. He might just reach out and we'll just see. We'll see what his response is.
Well, it happened, the way that it works is it's his jurisdiction because it happened on federal property. And this is how they were able, the D.C. district attorney can charge anything that happens in Washington, D.C. And you were in Washington, D.C. And beautiful. So,
that's what I'll do right after this then.
Well, there we
go. We're getting places here on the Benny Show, man.
Don't take legal advice, but I'm telling you, this shouldn't be tolerated. You have a right. You have a right protected under the First Amendment to simply ask questions, and you weren't being violent, right? You weren't pushing or you weren't pushing or fighting anyone or punching anyone. They were punching.
No, I was the one taking the punches and taking the pushes. That was me. I wasn't blocking anybody. I wasn't, I'm not getting in their paths. I'm, simply trying to get an answer to a question. There's no aggression. The only aggression there is asking aggressive questions that they don't like.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
It's as simple as that. Ayanna Presley, you're talking about FEMA. situation. I asked her directly in a video that I'm about to post. I asked her if she condoned FEMA sending $59 million to house illegals in New York City while people in Western North Carolina had been living in tents for the past 4 months. And I got the death stare of a lifetime. It was like a ghetto death stare, Benny. You're going to see. I mean, I've never gotten that look from a congressperson before, but it's like a look of intimidation because, they think that they're gods. These Democrat congresspeople think they are gods, that they're untouchable, and that nothing will ever happen to them. I'm here in D.C. now. I'm going to live here in D.C., and I'm going to do this on a routine basis. So they should be ready for it. Maybe I'll have to wear a mask like their masked minions so that they can't recognize me.
Fantastic, man. We'd love to make you the official correspondent of the Benny Show, and we can find fun plots together. I mean, it'd be really nice to ask Ilhan Omar about her immigration status and her brother and how she actually got into this country and what crimes she committed. This is going to be a much larger story, Nick, that we're working on right now with individuals who have a lot of knowledge of some of the dark past of Ilhan Omar. So more to come there. I might ask to see if you might want to go ask the congresswoman from Minnesota a few questions. But
I know exactly where her office is too. So it's I think we can make something happen, Benny.
We're getting ahead of ourselves here. You went thermonuclear. You went viral with this post, which I think is so profound from you because unlike any other journalist, you actually went to these places. You were in Lahaina. You joined our program from Maui. You were in Western North Carolina. You did the exact same thing from a Starlink. You've actually gone to these places, East Palestine, and you've engaged with those in these communities, those individuals who have been totally abandoned and forgotten about, disrespected, and spit on by their federal government, by FEMA, told they have no money. You can only get $700. And then at the same time, behind their back, FEMA is funding hundreds, billions probably, for criminal aliens in this nation. This has got to have a very profound effect on you since you've actually been there. Talk me through what does this mean to somebody who's had their entire lives destroyed, who's here legitimately as an American, and then they see these criminal aliens getting lavished by the federal government.
Man, I'm telling you, the change in their attitude over the past several months has been really heartwarming. But, talking about the stuff that was happening while these disasters were going on, especially once you got to Maui. Once they got to Maui and the place had burned down and FEMA was, MIA. That's the situation every single time. You never see FEMA. And they had already heard what the people of East Palestine went through. So they had very little hope from the get-go that they were going to be taken care of. And the same thing with Western North Carolina, the people living in tents by the side of the road and getting, living day to day thinking that they're going to be evicted by FEMA the next day because FEMA would do that. They'd give you 24 hours notice and evict you for no reason. That ended right at the day that Trump took office. That ended. They moved the date way out until May. So those people know that they have housing until at least May. It may even get extended again because the government is taking forever to clear these plots. The people of Lahaina still aren't allowed to go to their homes without a permit. That's how bad it is out there. And Trump has sent in massive teams from the Army Corps of Engineers that are clearing these plots at a much faster rate now. And you have to ask, Benny, why didn't Biden do this? Does he really, is it gross incompetence or do they really hate these people that much? I fail to believe that anybody can possibly be that incompetent. The Army Corps of Engineers, I don't work in government. I've only been doing this for a couple of years, but even that seems like a super obvious thing to do when, you have to pave the way for people to be able to rebuild. I don't know why Biden sat on that and didn't use that in Western North Carolina or Maui. But now they have some hope, and it makes me feel a lot better. Benny, one more thing on that. We were all called liars. We were called fake news. I was community noted time after time after time before calling out FEMA and saying they weren't here, they're not doing anything, nobody has seen them, I get community note and says, oh, FEMA put out a statement saying they're on the ground. Okay, I'm on the ground. I don't see them. You're lying.
Do you believe that there should be criminal charges for the FEMA employees that went around President Trump's back and funded criminal aliens and defrauded the American taxpayers, misused and mismanaged this, and engaged in insubordination? We made some news this morning talking about the FEMA chief financial officer who was frog marched out of the FEMA headquarters after being found to be the individual, her name's Mary Comas, who was running a shadow government behind Trump's back and was spending it's not tens of millions, it's hundreds of millions most likely of taxpayer dollars illegally behind the president's back. I mean, as justice for the Americans who have been so disrespected and ignored by FEMA, what do you think should happen to these feds?
There needs to be an example set here. This is the time. This is gross insubordination. It's misuse of taxpayer funds at the highest level. Make an example out of them, because this is going to keep happening. These people are, they think that there's some sort of social justice warriors for whatever reason, and they think that they're martyrs going down with the ship. No, you're criminals. You're stealing taxpayer money to fund your social pet projects and probably even launder money through these. And we know that there's a lot of money laundering going on through these NGOs to Democrat PACs and campaigns and places like the Red Cross, where that's another big thing that FEMA spent billions of dollars with, were NGOs like the Red Cross, who are literally handing out maps, sending people to the southern border, telling them how to get there. I mean, they're facilitating an invasion, and I guarantee you this lady had a hell of a lot to do with that. I mean, she was the CFO. She was the one making the calls on who got the money and when and how quickly. And she's also the one at the same time that was directly denying payments to people living in tents in Western North Carolina. That's not just criminal, it's evil, Benny. She needs to go to prison.
Yes. That's how you stop it. This is how, you must have consequences. Every single parent knows this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want a safer country and a better country with more truth, you must follow Nick. I cannot emphasize this enough. Nick's account is just an absolute vehicle for truth. He's one of the few real journalists out there. One of the only people that is actually properly fearless in the face of entrenched power. Go follow Nick right now. He is on his way to 1 million subs. 770,000 Americans. Can't be wrong. Nick, Godspeed, man.
Thank you, Benny. Appreciate you, man.